So what we're going to go over today is how to figure out the slope or the rate of change, specifically when you're given a graph. So let's talk about what the slope is. Basically, the slope of a line is how steep that line is. And it's usually written as a fraction. It isn't always written as a fraction, but to actually use it to graph it, it needs to be written as a fraction. That means whole numbers need to be written as fractions. And it describes how steep a line is. It describes whether or not the line's going up, whether it's going down, whether it's flat. So we're taking a picture of a graph and we're writing a number that describes what that graph looks like. So, how to determine the slope given a graph? We're going to use this example right here to start us off. And basically what we're doing is we're figuring out the slope of this line right here. I realize this is a line segment, but we're just going to use this line segment as an example. First thing we're going to do is start at one of these points. Doesn't matter which one we start at, we just start at one. We're going to start at A. We're going to write a fraction when we do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at A, and instead of going across to B, we have to go up or down first. So for this one, we're probably going to need to go up. You count how many you go up. I go 1, 2. So what I do is I come over here and I make a fraction, and I put that fraction or that number in the top of the fraction. I put 2 in the top of the fraction. Then I need to count across, and that number goes in the bottom of the fraction. So I went up 2. Now I need to count how many I need to go over. 1, 2, 3. That number goes in the bottom of the fraction. It doesn't matter if I start at A or B. I can start at B. So let's start at B. I'm going to follow these same instructions. Starting at B, I need to go up or down. Well, if I start at B, I need to go down. So I'm going to go down 1, 2. I put 2 in the top of the fraction, and then I start going across 1, 2, 3, and I put 3 in the bottom. It doesn't matter if you start at A or B. That's just going to determine whether or not you need to go up or down first. Starting at A, I need to go up 2, across 3. If I started at B, I went down 2, put that in the top, went across 3, put that in the bottom. So that's the basics of using a graph to determine what the slope is. The next thing we need to do is this. Let's look at some examples here. We'll look at this first example. I'm going to determine what the slope of this line is. I'm going to start at A. I realize I need to write a fraction, so I come over here and I go ahead and make a fraction bar. I start at A. I'm going to go up or down. Well, to travel to B, I need to go up 1. I put 1 in the top. I need to travel over or across 1, 2, 3. I put that in the bottom. The slope of this line right here is 1/3. Let's try another example. I'm going to start at B this time. I realize I need a fraction. I'm going to go ahead and make a fraction bar. To get to A, I need to go down first. 1, 2. I put 2 in the bottom. The number I go across goes in the bottom of the fraction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I had to go down 1, 2. That goes in the top. I had to go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That goes in the bottom of the fraction. The slope of this line is 2/5. When you describe these lines, sometimes the answer is going to be positive. Sometimes the answer is going to be negative. Well, then we've got that number that's not positive and not negative. That's 0. We need to be able to look at a line and go, hey, that has a 0 slope. We also have what's called no slope or an undefined slope. We need to be able to look at a graph and determine that one. So let's talk about whether or not these fractions that we're going to write are going to be positive or negative. And what you need to do is just look at the picture that you've got. This right here is a picture of a positive slope. The way I know this is a positive slope is because we read things going left to right. If I'm going to read this word, I start right here and go in that direction, left to right. Same thing here. If I start moving left to right and I hit this line, I start going up, that means this is going to be a positive slope. So let's figure out the slope of this line right here. Make a fraction. I'm going to start at A. To travel to B, I need to go up first. I need to go up 1. Put that in the top of my fraction. I need to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. I put that in the bottom of the fraction. The slope of this line right here is 1/4. And it's positive 1/4 because we're going up. Here's what a negative slope looks like. Because we read things going left to right, like this word right here, I would read it going left to right. Same thing for this line. As soon as I hit that line, I start going down. Whatever my answer I'm going to write right here is going to be negative because this line is going down. So let's determine the slope of this line. I'm going to start at A. I know I'm going to need a fraction. I make a fraction bar. I need to go down 1, 2, 3. 3 goes in the top of the fraction. How many I go across goes in the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my numbers, but since this line is going down, I put a negative sign right in front of that fraction. The slope of this line is negative 3/4. The slope of this line is positive 1/4 because it's going up. So there's the difference between a positive slope and a negative slope. You just determine whether it's positive or negative, and you put that sign in front of the number. If this is a positive number, that's going to be a negative number. Well, then we've got that one number that's not positive and negative. That's called 0. So here's what a 0 slope looks like. A slope of 0 is any line that goes straight across like this. As soon as you see a line that's going straight across like this, you know it has a slope of 0. So if you're going to write down what the slope of this line is, you simply write down 0. Something that goes across has a slope of 0. You just need to be able to look at it and go, okay, that's a slope of 0. These others require a little bit more work because you have to count. This one you don't have to count. As soon as you look at it, that is a slope of 0. We need to figure out what the opposite of this one is. A line that goes straight up and down, like this right here. This is called no slope or undefined slope. Matters on how your teacher wants you to write it down. Sometimes they ask you to write down no slope. Sometimes they ask you to write down undefined slope. That's because we don't have a number that can describe a line that goes straight up and down like this. So a lot of times I have my students just write down, there is no slope on this one. Those are the different types of slope. These are the 4 possible answers that you can get. You could get a positive answer. You can get a negative answer. If it goes across, you write down 0, and one that goes up and down has no slope. One other thing you need to keep in mind. All fractions must be in lowest terms, especially if you're going to describe 2 slopes. So let's determine the slope of this one. Again, I know it's going to be a fraction, so I'll go ahead and make my fraction bar. I'm going to start at A. To travel to B, I have to go up first, so I'm going to go up 1, 2. 2 goes in the top of the fraction. I need to go across to get to B. 1, 2, 3, 4. I put 4 in the bottom. I should be able to look at that and tell, hey, that's not in lowest terms. I should be able to look and tell that 2 will go into both of these numbers. So I need to divide the top and the bottom by 2. And when I reduce that, the actual slope of this is 1/2.